Hi guys, very good afternoon to all of you. Welcome to the another video where we're going to talk about three more important the pivot features. I just uploaded a video 465 where I talked about the three important videos, and in this video let us discuss more three very important pivot tricks, pivot features which every MIS user is supposed to know. So welcome to the channel. My channel name is Ajay Kumar Parmar and this is Ajay Parmar. I have been uploading the videos from the last 2 years, 2.5 years in fact, and if you're watching the channel for the first time, this channel talks about the Excel VBA, MS Access and Access VBA, right? So just I'm gonna take a couple of seconds for you just to give you the understanding how you can go and watch all these videos. These are all the sections, the playlist which you would find on my channel. This is the for the Excel VBA. This is how the hierarchy you should follow if you are going to learn Excel VBA. This is the Excel playlist which you should watch in this sequence, and this is for the Access front end, this is for the Access VBA. When you go to the channel guys, this is where you need to click, and this is where you get to see all these, the playlist one by one, right? So these are all the playlist, and now we're going to start with this the new video where I'm going to talk about these three options: how to fill the blank rows, how to convert the pivot into name manager, and what are the benefits of it, and how to use the shortcut key Alt O A, right? While many of you who never worked in Excel 2003 or the previous versions, they might not be aware of this Alt OA, so this is going to be very interesting. Now the first thing which I want to tell is that as I said this in my previous video also, which was a video number 465, we are not here to talk about how to create the pivots, because if you want to learn how to create the pivots and why they are used, then you can go and you can pick up this the playlist which is called the Excel, the pivots and the charts. This one guys, right? I talked about all the pivots and the charts in fact from the very scratch, right? So this channel basically will educate you about all the basics of Excel VBA, Access front end, Access VBA, and of course we are going to talk about the advanced level as well. So it's a mixture of everything, and we are doing our best. I'm doing my best to provide you every video on every topic, right? Now this is the pivot which I have created right now in front of you. Now the question is not how I have created it, the question is what all we can do here. So we're going to talk about the first thing. Now you see that this is called the fill blank rows. If you look at this, if you ever have a pivot which shows the blank, for example this is my this is showing me blank. Now why this is showing blank? Because if you look at my data, if I just show you, this is basically the data. In this data I have kept this tier 1 city and the candidate name ABC, it's blank, right? So if I just click on ABC, let me show you this. I have created this a blank. So ABC, you can see that for the tier 1 it does not hold any value. So naturally guys, when the pivot is going to come, the pivot is going to show you this blank. Now the thing is, sometimes you go with the blank, but sometimes you don't want to show it as a blank. Maybe you want to show it something else, so that the user should not be seeing it just as a blank, or should not be seeing it as a missing value, right? They should get the information. So maybe you can do one thing. When you click on the pivot, this is my pivot basically, don't click outside the pivot. Make sure you should be on this, the pivot anyway. Select in the pivot and again right click and go to the pivot table option. Right now in the pivot table option guys, in this the layout and the format, you have to if you look at this, for empty cells show. So for empty cells show, if I just write here blank, for example I write here blank, right? When you press OK, what's gonna happen, this is where you get to see the value as blank. So this is not now going to look as a space, okay, as a blank cell, that something is left over there, right? It completely shows you a comment, right, that this is my blank. So this is the first tip. Let me repeat that. I just went to, I right click on the pivot table option and I go here in this, for empty cells show blank, or maybe anything you can write. Maybe I can write here nothing, okay? Let's just press OK, and you see that it's gonna show you nothing, right? So anytime any changes happens in your pivot, for example, now I'm gonna make this tier 2 as also a tier 6, let's say blank, right? So I just go and I click on the pivot, and now let's have a look here. So I'm just going to refresh my pivot, okay, and now let's scroll down, because tier 6 was showing me, you know, this blank, and you can see that it shows me as nothing. Wonderful, right? So that's something you should always know. Now let's talk about the another interesting thing, convert pivot into a name manager. Now guys, tell me one thing, when you create the pivots, there are a number of ways of creating the pivot. You can use the shortcut key Alt DP, you can go in the insert, you can create the table, you can create the offset function. There are, you know, a number of things, right? But I'm specifically going to talk about here the very basic way of creating the pivot. Now what happens when people they create the pivot, they go to the insert and they click on the pivot, and then they just go to the raw sheet and they, you know, select the entire table. Right now I have put the filter, but this is how, I mean, they do it, you know. Just imagine if this is your entire table. Well, selecting the table is also good, but you know, I think this irritates me a lot sometimes, because of the reason when I'm actually supposed to make a lot of pivots, then what I can do is, let me first remove the filter. Then suppose you have 4-5 pivot raw, you know, the data. Now you want to make the 4-5 pivots quickly, so instead of you going to the pivot and selecting the data manually, why don't you just in the beginning, you know, select the entire table like this, and then immediately go in this name box and give it a name. So let's say I want to give it a name called this is my, let's say, tier data. So I can write here tier city data, isn't it? Okay, and I just press enter. The moment you press enter, your name is going to be created. Look at this. When I click here, this selects that data. You can also do it from the formula. You go to the formula and click on the name manager, and in the name manager create anything. For example, I create a junk. For example, I'm just telling you. So refers to what? So this junk is going to refers to my this table. So I just go and select this table. So this we can see 1 to G7. So this is going to be created, as you can see here. The moment I click here, it refers to this table, right? Similarly, if you come back to this tier city data and I click here, you know, that's how the table looks like. So now in future, you will not have to select C1 to G24. You always got to write tier city data, right? So what I'm gonna do is, the next time when I create the pivot, let me go here, insert pivot. I go to the insert and I click on the pivot. Now here, just write the name, tier city data. Wonderful. And just click OK. And the moment you're gonna click OK, you have the pivot and you have that data. Isn't it fantastic? So you know, you can drag the candidate names, you can put the, you know, the sales item here and whatever, I mean, you know. So you don't have to go to the sheets again and again, right? Just create that name manager. We call it name manager, guys, right? So this is the second tip which you can always use, create the name managers, because I always use that. I love, you know, writing their names instead of going to the sheets and selecting the data. Now this is a very small data, but remember, if you have a data we're using almost 20-25 columns and they are like, you know, 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 rows. So in that way, you know, it's always good to use the tables, the names, right? And also, if you're thinking that the shortcut even work on that huge data, then sometime what happens, for example, if I let's say if I have to select my data sort of like in this way, you know, I just want to create the pivot on this data, right? So you know, you have to do it manually, isn't it, with the mouse. You can't use the shortcut keys like control shift right arrow and then down arrow, right? So you have to do it manually. So every time you select the data this again and again, why don't we just go and give it a name manager? That would be fantastic, right? So because Excel is all about the speed, guys, speed and accuracy. This is what you needed. If you know Excel very well but you don't have a speed, then I don't think so you're gonna get the benefit, because in your this challenging environment in your office, you know, you need the reports. You need the reports on the immediate basis, especially about think about those ad hoc activities, you know, which just comes in front of you and in seconds, and they want that reports to be done in half an hour, in 15 minutes, you know. So I think the shortcut keys are very. Now let's talk about the last option. So the last option is shortcut keys Alt OA. Now what is it actually? So now when I you know, come to this pivot, let's say this is my pivot, right? Now what happens, you know that in the design view you can create a lot of formatting. For example, these are all the different colors, right? But do you know that before 2007 we didn't have this design template, right? If you ever get the chance to work on 2003, well, I mean, don't ever work on 2003, because we are now 2016 we are using, right? But just out of the curiosity, if you ever get the chance to see that 2003, then you would see there we have the different ways of the design templates, and those design templates are not here. So what you need to do is, but the shortcut key still works. So when you're going to press Alt OA, provided your cursor is on the pivot, look at this, what's going to happen. Alt OA, the moment you press Alt OA, this is what you get to see. And this is something which I used to use a lot in 2003. I'm talking about like 13-14 years back. So when I was working on the Excel 2003, so this is, guys, all those formats, right? So you can use these formats as well. For example, if I'm just going to show you, let me just click on this. So if I click on this, see what happened. This is how the pivot gets changed. It's not just about the design. You see that this exactly entirely going to change. Look at this. Let me press undo, Control Z. That's how your pivot looked like. But if you're gonna make the pivot like this, Alt OA, and you just go and change this to this template. I'm selecting this template. Look at this. This is how it's gonna look like, And again, if I press Alt OA and let me go to this, double click here, this is how it's gonna look like. Now if you again press Alt OA, select this one again, let's go here, and now let me just scroll it down. So I'm gonna scroll it down, and I'm just going to choose this, maybe this one. Let me click here. Look at this, guys. The entire pivot is changing. Isn't it fantastic? I'm not sure. I know all of those Excel lovers who never worked on Excel 2003, they may not be aware about this option. This is fantastic. It reminds me of my that the new the when I actually just started working with the Excel, right? My teenage time, isn't it? So well, we learned a lot that point in time, and that's why today I'm able to share some sort of information with you. I hope you find this trick very, very interesting. So this is your Alt OA. You don't forget this option. This is a very old option, and you can definitely use that. It just not changes your entire pivot, but it also gives you the good color formatting, right? So this is all about my for today's lesson. I'll see you soon, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.